day 2 of the Invest in Apartments Challenge. Nice to see you guys. All right, thank you for having your cameras on. Welcome, Jack Weiss, I see you in the house. Gino Aragon. All right, Mina, get your hair pulled back, ready for some awesome stuff today. You guys are looking good. Bradley Moon. All right, we got Kenneth, we got Emily Oliver, nice to see you. All right, Crystalie. You guys getting ready? It's gonna be an awesome day too. Okay, so if you are with us on the Facebook, I'd love to hear for the very first time anyway, Facebook or with us backstage. If this is your first time joining in, if you missed out yesterday, please post your name and where you're tuning in from. This is gonna be amazing. We had an awesome first day. If you were here with us yesterday, please tell them how amazing yesterday was. Post it in the comments so they could see. I wanna find out who all was here yesterday and did your homework. If you did your homework, let me know. I wanna see what we got here. So we got Gary Pierce saying hello. Arshad, hello to you. Rashida, nice to see you. All right, where do you get the Backstage Pass? Guys, you wanna post the link to the Backstage Pass? All right, they're gonna do that for you guys. We got Trish Lee, how's it going? From Indiana, woohoo! All right, day 1, Lori, fantastic, that's awesome. Okay, nice to see all these comments. I don't know if I can get them all, but hello from Charlotte. Nice to see you. All right, this is awesome. Gina won the book. Okay, good. All right, well, we are gonna give some prizes away for those of you who've done your homework. If you guys wanna share your financial freedom number, you know, I always find when you put stuff out to the universe, tell everyone, just own it. It just happens to come faster. You manifest faster that way. So put it out there. Let us know if you want to share. I'd love to support you. Hello from Austin. It's amazing. Becky, I love you. You're so beautiful and awesome. Thank you. So this is so great. Yo, Carl, I see you. So awesome to have all of you guys here today. Troy, Lawson. Guys, keep it going. I love this. This is so cool. I mean, to be in a room and be able to connect with all of you at the same time, I love this. All right, so you guys keep it up. We are gonna have an amazing day 2. We've got a guest speaker today. I'm not gonna talk too much about it. I'm gonna let Brad share that with you. And I'm about to bring him on. I just wanna make sure that you guys know how to get your Backstage Pass because this is gonna be amazing. We are gonna draw back the curtains today and our guest speaker is gonna reveal to you some exciting things. And today, after today, the Backstage Pass is gonna go up. I think they said it's gonna double. So if you're thinking about it, today would be the day to get it. And I highly encourage you to do so. It's super intimate, and we are gonna pull back the curtains and get very close and answer all your questions that we can. So, what do we got going on here? All right, I love some of these financial freedom numbers. Keep it going, Tommy Dalton, very nice. Who else we got here? Marias Marita, all right. I like it, you post your why, that's amazing. You guys, this is great. Maria, awesome. Hello from Seattle, 30K a month, let's do it. Mina, 40K, you got it. You can do it, you guys, this is awesome. Keep it going. Make sure this energy that you guys have today, you want to keep it strong. Keep it going throughout this whole challenge, okay? So if you guys are ready for Brad, we want to bring on some energy. We want to make sure you guys are good. Oh, for those of you that don't have your cameras on and you're with us, I really want to get to know you guys. So I appreciate those that I see your names on there, but I don't see those beautiful smiling faces. So please turn on those cameras so that I can connect with all of you. Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you guys. Ruth and Jeffrey Tang and Ryan Silva. Thank you guys. Alan Stewart. You guys are amazing. Jing Chai, so nice to see you. Manuel Garcia. Cornelius, how you doing? Kelly Stinson's in the house. Potty Princess, hi. Hi Tom, I see you. Well, you guys ready for an amazing day? Let's give it up. Are you ready to have Brad on there? Let me see. Show me by putting out something in the chat. Tell me how excited you are, ready to get started. I'm not gonna bring him out till I know for sure, so give me some waves, throw some hearts. Let me see what you guys going. Are you really ready? All right, I think they're ready. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. All right, well, we're gonna give it to you guys. We're gonna have an amazing day too, so Without further ado, here comes the Apartment King, Brad Sumrock.
Woo!
Woo!
She's awesome.
All right, you guys, you got to just get excited first, right? It's all about physiology first.
I love day one, and day two is we're just gonna take it up a notch. Okay, we're gonna take it up. We're gonna take it up a notch, a notch, a notch.
Yes,
boom,
I love the hearts.
day two.
I love the hearts. All right, well,
All right,
take
great
it over.
job.
All right.
I love her. I love her.
See you guys. I'll see you backstage.
All right. All right. So who's ready for day two? I was backstage, by the way, and I was looking at all the comments. When I'm up here on stage, I could see all the comments from the backstage. And in the back, I was able to see all the comments in the Facebook group. So we love all the comments in the Facebook group too. So I see people that are coming in for the first time that missed yesterday. And so I'm going to do a short recap too of what we covered yesterday before we start today. So let's get going because we have a lot to do, okay? And got to get the clicker. By the way, one of my famous phrases that I always talk about as for apartment investing is when I got into real estate, I used to think that I was going to need to trade in. At the time, I had a BMW, and I thought I would have to trade in my BMW for a pickup truck because I'm thinking, you know, people that I knew that had real estate, they were driving to their houses, their rental houses, with their toolkit in the back of the truck. You know what I'm talking about, Tammy. I see you, I see you. Yeah, Tammy Hain, I see you shaking your head, yes. I'm thinking I'm going to need to haul refrigerators and appliances. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this business with a BMW? And fortunately, I sought out mentorship like Robert Kiyosaki talked about. Robert Kiyosaki taught us that we should be business owners and investors and not self-employed people, okay? And so my first property I shared with you yesterday, but it was 32 units. And now I would teach you, by the way, and I will teach you to go 60 units and above, and it might blow your mind, but my first property was 32 units. And even with 32 units, I was able to afford a manager and a maintenance person. So I didn't have to do any of that, okay? So my story that I love to tell, and I'm glad I remembered when I went and grabbed this clicker, okay, the only tool I know how to use is a wine bottle opener. Write that down. So if you know how to use a wine bottle opener, you are qualified to be a business owner, an apartment business owner. And now that I do speaking and all that type of stuff, I actually had to learn how to use one of these clickers, although I'm still learning on how to use this, obviously. So let's get started. And I want to do a really short recap of day one because I know some of you missed it. And we also had the opportunity to get the recordings. And so, but I just want to talk to you about what we talked about, okay? And day one was fantastic. So one of the things that we talked about was, and this was transformational for me, is I grew up with my parents being essentially my first set of mentors, okay? And I shared with you yesterday what I learned from my parents. And it was things like, you know, stay out of debt. You know, if you can't afford it, you shouldn't buy it if you don't have the money in the bank or in your checking account. Work hard, study hard, get good grades, go to college, save your money for college. When you graduate from college, save your money for retirement. Live below your means. Money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, and those are the things that I learned. And then from reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and the Cash Flow Quadrant, I learned how the rich think, okay? And I started learning about the difference between a real asset, which puts cash flow in your pocket and has depreciation. And then Robert yesterday, he talked about paper. You know, stocks, they can go up and they can go down, but it doesn't put cash flow in your pocket and you don't have depreciation losses. And that's why Robert doesn't do stocks. That's why I don't do stocks. Okay, so we talked about this mindset shift. And by the way, for me, if I had to say I get asked all the time, what was the single biggest thing that, Brad, got you to the level of success that you have today? And depending on what I'm thinking, sometimes it's like it's that decision I made 19 years ago to be an apartment investor. And sometimes it's like it's my focus because I'm really focused on apartments and I don't have that shiny penny syndrome looking at all these distractions and invest in this business, invest in that business, do this, do that, do this. But I would also say that mindset is one of the biggest things. And it's that mindset that Robert Kiyosaki taught me about the difference between formal education and specialized education. And you heard how passionate Robert was about the people in the E&I category versus the people on the in the E&S category versus the B and I category. So we really learned a lot about ESBI, okay? And then I shared with you my own transformation from an employee and working in five different jobs over 17 years to being able to get my financial freedom number within less than 3 years of investing in apartments. So imagine, again, if you think 5 years is a long time, imagine my 57-year-old brother who recently lost his job after 27 years in IT. And now he's thinking about what is he going to do. Again, he's thinking about doing construction or driving a bulldozer or being a commercial truck driver and then being away from his family, okay? So, we don't want that to happen, okay? And so within a 3 to 5 year period, and look, I've seen your financial freedom numbers. There's so many comments on Facebook and I love it. I love it. But I was trying to respond to all the comments last night and this morning and there's so many. But I saw your financial freedom numbers and the good news is they're all possible. Okay, none of your numbers were like $1 billion or $5 million. They were like 7,000, 7,500, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. And these are all possible. So if you want to go ahead and share on Facebook again, just what was your financial freedom number or what is that first financial freedom number? Go ahead and share that. Okay, because the more repetition is the mother of skill. And the more you share it and the more you declare it, the more likely it is to happen. Okay? And then we talked about being obsessed. We talked about having a burning desire. We talked about being passionate. Nobody that's really successful got successful by being safe and being logical and being reasonable. So you got to have this burning desire, this passion to achieve your why, okay? We talked about the financial freedom number. Krista Lee, how about her? She came up, and Krista Lee is a mom of twins. They're 4 years old, okay? She's a wife. She works for us full time, and she's my right-hand person in the company, and believe me, she works her tail off. And she was able to invest in 9 deals passively and put together 2 large syndications. And she was very active in those syndications, raising the money and going out to El Paso and Wichita Falls, okay? So these are all the things we talked about. And then Robert Kiyosaki, he talked about ESBI. And one of the things I loved that he said is the importance of being on the inside. As an investor and as a business owner, we are on the inside. And it's so true in the apartment industry. You want to be on the inside because it's a not what you know, but also a who you know business. And so being on the inside and working with experienced people are really going to help you. And then after Robert got off, I stayed backstage and I answered your questions. And I was so excited to see like the post this morning in the Facebook group talking about how much value people got from being backstage. And so Mike Becker is going to be here backstage with us, and he's already in the studio. So Mike, come up here really quick. And,
hey, buddy.
This is Mike Becker in the house. And Mike Becker is we're going to talk after, we're done. And he's going to talk about his journey from employee to having over 10,000 units, but then we're also going to do some backstage stuff, right?
That's right, yeah. If you're on the backstage pass, you should definitely get it. We're going to give out the kind of our thoughts and forecasts for 2021 and what we're doing at SPI Advisory, my company. So excited to spend a little bit of time with you guys today. Thank you for having me.
All right, Mick.
All right, see you soon.
All right, I'll see you in 45 minutes or so. So Mike is here in the house, and I don't know, maybe Mike wants to learn about passive investing. and deal sponsoring, because that's what we're talking about today. So I'm so excited. We're just going to dive right in. So that's the QR code. Join us backstage. And by the way, after today, the backstage pass doubles. Okay, the price doubles. So this is your opportunity. And if you missed the backstage yesterday, we'll give you the recording if you go ahead and get that today. So let's get started, man. So when it comes down to it, I'm looking at the slide here. When it comes down to it, this is the three-step formula that I have done looking back in hindsight over the last 19 years. Okay, when I started, I didn't say, okay, the first thing I need to do is change my mindset. In fact, I had an engineering degree and an MBA, and the last thing I believed that I needed to do is change my mindset. Does that make sense? It's ironic because that was the biggest aha moment for me. And so what's interesting now is if people are out there thinking that they don't need to work on their mindset, they're probably the ones that need to work on it the most. And sometimes I even get caught up in that. I'm like, oh, my mindset is great right now. Like, let's just talk about strategies and tactics. But I catch myself because, you know, when I look at Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, these people have like amazing abundance mindsets. They have exponential mindsets, not incremental mindsets. And so I continue to work on my mindset because I want to have an exponential life, not an incremental life, okay? So the mindset is huge, and we're always going to be working on the mindset. And today we're going to dive in to the mechanisms, and you could also call the mechanisms the strategies and the tactics. And so this is what we're going to spend the next 3 days on the challenge. The next 3 or 4 days on the challenge are going to be on the mechanisms. So we're going to talk about how to invest, and we're going to talk about where to invest, and you know what makes a good deal and what makes a good market, and how to fund your deals and how to finance your deals. And I'm going to bring in some of my expert team members to help us with all of these mechanisms, or also what we would call strategies and tactics. So this is what we're going to be covering the rest of the challenge, okay? And I'm super, super excited about that. So let's dive into the 3 ways to invest in apartments. And this is also something that I only teach what I do, and I do what I teach. And so you won't notice on here that like wholesaling apartments or flipping apartments is on here. And also investing means that you're investing money. Typically an investment involves money. Now, there are ways to invest without money, but you'll need to have skill sets and you'll need to add value to the transaction. So we'll talk about that too, by the way. And Robert yesterday talked about investing with no money down, but there's a difference between none of your money down versus maybe using other people's money down, okay? Or meaning absolutely zero down to buy an apartment, or just zero of your money. And so there's ways to put deals together without using your money, but you could use other people's money. So that's a distinction that I want to bring up. So as we talk about the 3 ways to invest, these are the 3 ways that I invest in apartment buildings, and they're the 3 ways that I still invest. Now, typically, people start with one of these 3. And so I'm going to take you through a process today where by the end of the day, you're going to be able to decide where you want to start. Do you want to start as an individual investor? And an individual investor, I'm going to define this, is buying your own deal with your own money. It's also commonly referred to as direct ownership, okay? And I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons of that. And then we're also going to talk about being a passive investor. And when you hear about passive income, it doesn't get much more passive than being a passive investor. And a passive investor is also commonly referred to as an LP or a limited partner. And then we're going to talk about the person or the people that put the deals together. They find the deals, they analyze the deals, they fund the deals, they manage the deals. And those people are called the deal sponsors, or also what you'll commonly hear them in the industry is referred to the general partners. Okay, so I'm going to talk about passive investing or limited partners, GPs or deal sponsors, and buying your own deal with your own money. So are we ready to go? If you're ready, I want to hear from you that we're ready to go and dive deep into this. Now, I need to do one more thing. Today and a little bit of tomorrow, we're going to be covering some numbers. And so I'm going to borrow a phrase that I have learned from Tony Robbins, okay? So let's all say this phrase together because I need you to get this in your head, okay? You ready? I love numbers, and numbers love me. I love numbers, and numbers love me. I love numbers, and numbers love me. And I'm saying that because you don't have to be an expert at numbers, and I'm certainly not an expert at numbers, but it really helps to understand some of the basics. And so what I'm going to be talking about today are some basic rules of thumb so that you can decide where you want to start and then what your SMART goals are: specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, and time sensitive. So by the end of the day, you're going to know where you're going to start and how you're going to invest and how much you're going to invest this year in 2021. So that's what's going to happen today. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about individual ownership. I'm going to talk about buying deals with your own money. And I'm going to use an example in all three scenarios: being a GP, being an LP, passive investor, and buying your own deal. And I'm going to use the same example, okay? And that way it's going to be consistent and it's going to be crystal clear for you. So the example property is going to be 100 units, a $10 million deal. Now I know some of you are thinking, Brad, are you nuts? I can't buy a $10 million deal. I signed up for the Invest in Apartment Challenge because I want to do a duplex or a fourplex or maybe a sixplex. And this guy, Brad Sumrock, is talking about 100 units. But just bear with me and remember, you don't need to have all the money to buy a 100-unit deal. So just kind of put that in your pocket and your brain and just remember, be open to the possibility. And I'm going to show you students that have bought $10 million deals using little of their own money, okay? And by the way, I just bought a $123 million deal. I shared with you that yesterday, and we put $40 million of equity in, and it wasn't $40 million of my money, okay? So I know some of you invested in that deal. And so this is how we could buy and control large deals, okay? So don't get intimidated with the numbers. And by the way, when you pick 100 units, 10 million, the numbers are so easy because everybody can multiply and divide by 10 and all that type of stuff. So this is a pretty easy example for us to learn from, okay? So we do the 100-unit deal, and the first rule of thumb I want to get across is we need $3 million down, and the rule of thumb is 30%. And so whatever size property it is, just take that 30% number. So if it's a $1 million deal, 30% of 1 million is 300. If it's a $5 million deal, 30% is 1.5 million. So that's your down payment. And then the rest of it is going to be a loan. Okay, and we're going to talk about that on Thursday. We're going to talk about how to get these loans. Okay, so we're going to cover all this through the challenge. So we need $3 million down. Now, the next rule of thumb is as a passive investor, sorry, we're covering individual ownership. The rule of thumb is that a properly purchased deal following the acquisition criteria that I'm going to teach you should earn about a 10% cash flow. It could be higher, it could be lower, okay? But the rule of thumb that I want to set for us, that I want to set our target and set our expectations, is if you buy your own deal with your own money, you'll earn about 10% cash on cash return. So if you put $3 million down, 10% of that is $300,000. So if you're following me so far, here in the Zoom backstage and on Facebook, just let me know that you're following me so far. Is everybody following me? Give me a thumbs up. All right, Mina, Jing, I see your thumbs up. Gina, okay, well, Michael Guthrie, okay, good, we're going. So, hey guys here in the studio, make sure I have this on my screen. It's the slides I want to have on my screen in front of me. So the next assumption I'm going to make, okay, and typically we hold these deals between 3 to 7 years. And the assumption I'm going to make is that we're going to sell the deal at the end of year 5, okay? And that the gain we're going to make is going to be 50% of our down payment, okay? So again, we put $3 million down, we get 10% cash return per year, and we sell at year 5 for $11.5 million. And so could everybody see, if you could understand and follow along, how we're making a 50% gain from appreciation? Does everybody see that? And these are rules of thumb, by the way. So these are my targets for a deal. So if you ask Brad Sumrock, Brad, what makes a good deal? I'm going to advise you that you want to pay a price where you could get a 10% cash return and a 50% return on equity at the sale, okay? And so if you add all that up, it gives you about an 80% total return, okay? And we're going to have depreciation. And depreciation, and I'm going to really dive deep into depreciation on Wednesday and Thursday. And so we'll be explaining that in more detail in the challenge. And just for now, we just need to know that if we buy a $10 million deal, we're going to get a year 1 depreciation of about $3 million. Okay, year 1 depreciation of about $3 million. And that's going to give us a tax savings of over $1 million. Now, by the way, if you remember from yesterday, I said I haven't paid taxes for 3 years in a row. And it's because I went out and bought buildings using this strategy, individual ownership with me and Jen, and we would get $4 or $5 million of depreciation that would offset our income. Okay, so just write it down, and remember, Tom Wheelwright's going to be one of our speakers, and on day 3 and 4, I'm going to have a lot more content on how depreciation actually works. So just remember these numbers, okay? So at the end of the day, over 5 years, as an individual owner, you should make double your money, okay? You should make $300 a year for 5 years. That's $1.5 million. And then when we sell, we make another $1.5 million. And so your $3 million investment should turn into a $6 million investment after 5 years. And so your projected 5-year return would be about 100%, which is a 20% average annualized return, okay? And if we put in the tax benefit that some of us will be able to use to offset our business income, and again, I'm going to cover that on day 3 and day 4, the returns go up even more. So on every scenario, I'm going to show you the non-tax adjusted return, and then I'm going to show you the tax adjusted return with depreciation. So let me just check in with you. How did I do explaining this scenario? Because everything we do next with being a passive investor and being a GP, I'm going to build on the same example. So did you all follow me pretty well? Let me hear from you guys on the Facebook page and here in the Zoom meeting, and just put in, yes, Brad, I followed you. If you want to tell me I did a great job, tell me I did a great job in explaining this scenario. I hope it's a great job, because I'm not going to go back and do it again, although we're going to continue to build on this and you'll get it, okay? And look, I understand I went pretty fast, and it's only day 2. So some of these things we're going to cover over and over and over again. And as Tony Robbins says, repetition is the mother of skill, okay? So, by the way, individual ownership is a strategy that I use. And I use it because me and Jennifer, we want to get cash flow. So we bought a 150 unit deal in December, and it was $9 million loan, $4 million down. okay? And I put $4 million down, but we're going to cash flow at about 13%. 13%. And we're going to get a $4.2 million tax write-off in 2020. And that $4.2 million tax write-off is going to offset $4.2 million of income. And so we make, yesterday I shared with you, we make mid-seven-figure net income, and we're going to pay zero tax. And that's what I want you guys to do, okay? And the strategy that we use for cash flow and reduce our taxes is individual ownership. So has everyone got that? And now I'm going to move on, okay? So now I'm going to talk about passive investing. And it's funny, you hear the term all the time, passive income, passive income, passive income. And most people that talk about passive income, it's not really passive because they're driving to their properties, they're collecting rent, they're swinging hammers, they're doing the books, they're doing the property management, they're going to court. If you're doing all that stuff, that's not passive income. You're an S. In the ESBI, you're an S. So if you're collecting rent, it's not passive income. Okay? If you're doing your own books and paying the bills, it's not passive income. So passive income in apartments is really passive. Okay? It's truly, truly passive. So at the very top of my screen, you can see that I just transposed the same example, and we're going to build on the same example, 100 units at $10 million. But now instead of buying that with a $3 million down payment, you're going to put in $50,000. Now I'm just assuming $50,000. You could put in $100,000. You could probably put in lower than $50,000. A lot of these deals, the general partners will take investors at lower than $50,000. So just remember, I'm using $50,000 as an example, okay? I was going to use $100,000, but most people could come up with 50. Okay, I've been doing this for years and years and years, and most people could come up with $50,000 to invest in a deal. So that's why I'm using 50. Now, the next thing that we're going to build on is we're going to assume that 80% of the profits go to the investors and 20% goes to the general partner. And this is why people become general partners, is because they can take a disproportionate split of the profit. And I'm going to explain that when we get to the general partner section, okay? So we're going to assume that as a limited partner, I'm putting 50 grand into a deal. And I do passive investing, by the way, and I'll tell you why, okay? So if this were my own deal and I made 10% a year, because I'm splitting it 20% to the GP, I'm only going to get 8%. So it's important that you follow that concept, okay? The same deal that if you owned it outright that gives a 10% return, out of that 10%, 2 goes to the general partner and 8 goes to the passive investors. Is everyone following that? Stefano, Mina, Charles, Becky, Mike Castaigne, are you guys following that? Michael Guthrie? So if you're following that, give me a nod, give me a thumbs up, post it in the Facebook page and say, yeah, Brad, I get it. I get that the GP gets a disproportionate share of the profit, okay? So I'm baking all these numbers into this example. So again, when we sell the deal, instead of getting the full amount of the profit, all the limited partners, they're giving up 20% of the profit to the general partner. And so if we weren't giving that up to the general partner, we'd earn 25%. But we're giving 20% away to the general partner. I'm sorry, we'd earn $25,000, but now we're only going to earn 20 as the passive, okay? And so all these numbers here, again, these are rules of thumb. These are expected returns. And I need to give you the disclosure that everything comes down to the deal, okay? And every deal is different. Some deals have higher cash flow. Some deals have higher sales proceeds. And so what I'm giving you is a rule of thumb. This is not a guarantee. This is not a promise. Okay, these are typical returns that I've seen over my 19 years of experience. Okay, and actually still what's available right now. So as a LP, you will also get your pro rata share of depreciation. And so you're going to get that. Okay, So passive investors, you get about an 8% cash flow, you get a return at the sale, and you get your pro rata depreciation allocated to you. So what does that come down to? Over 5 years, you get about an 80% return on your money, which over an annualized basis, it's a 16% average annualized return. And that 16% includes the cash flow, which is 8, and the return of your, not only the return of your capital at sale, but the return on your capital at the sale. And so it's about a 16% average annualized return as a passive. And now as a passive investor, if you could also benefit from that depreciation that's going to be allocated to you, again, and we're going to cover that on day 3 and day 4, how that works, who could benefit from it. And actually the better question is how you could benefit from that depreciation. And Tom Wheelwright's really going to dive into that. Your returns go up, okay? So that's the passive investing ROI. And by the way, I invest passively. I invest passively in 3 or 4 or 5 deals a year because I want to diversify. I can't possibly buy all the deals myself. I have students that are looking in markets that I'm not focused on, okay? And I want to get more cash flow and depreciation. So I invest passively. It's part of my strategy, okay? So that's the passing investor value proposition. And again, if you invest less than $50,000, these numbers will be adjusted down proportionally. And you know, I've put it sometimes as much as $250,000 into a deal as a passive investor. And so then my numbers would be adjusted upward, but the percentages are going to be about the same, okay? Now, my question to you is this. Who wants to go faster than this? Who wants to make more money faster and also help more people? So let me see on the backstage, just give me a thumbs up, put it in the chat. If you're on the live stream, put into your comments, Brad, I want to go faster, okay? And I'm going to show you how we can go faster by being a general partner or a syndicator. And that's going to be the secret sauce to really having exponential financial growth, okay? So that's the next step, is if you want to go faster, you're going to want to be a deal sponsor or a general partner. And the other term that you'll hear is a syndicator, okay? And so if you remember on that very first slide, I said the 3 ways to invest, and there was the individual ownership, and then there was a red box that had the general partners and the limited partners. They need each other. The limited partners need to find the general partner that they trust, and they need to vet that person. And it's very important to do that, okay? And the general partners need to find a whole bunch of people that want to be limited partners. So they have a need for each other, a synergistic relationship. But on this slide, I'm going to talk about there's 4 main ways the general partners get paid, okay? And there's no way I could do a whole class, a whole 8-hour class on deal structure, on syndicator compensation, okay? So I'm just going to give you, again, some rules of thumb today so that you can make a decision as far as where do you want to start and where do you want to be in 5 years, okay? So a GP is going to make, on average, between 5 to 20x as the passive investor in the deal. I'm going to repeat that. The GP is going to make between 5 to 20 times as the passive investor. And here's why. Number 1, GPs typically invest money in their own deals. And so the money the GP invests in the deal is going to get the same return as the passive investor, as an equity investor. So for example, when I did the North returns as the LPs, okay, does everyone follow that? Now, by the way, as a GP, I get this question all the time. Brad, do I need to put money in my own deal? And you don't need to put money in your own deal, but especially when you're starting out, what does that say about you as a GP if you don't have money to put in your own deal, okay? So I'm going to cover some rules of thumb about that. Now, number two, GPs are able to get additional carried interest. And the simple definition of carried interest is you should get a disproportionate share of the cash flow and the sales proceeds in exchange for the services and experience and track record and all the work that you're going to be doing on the deal. Okay, so in the passive investor example, I said let's assume that we're going to have an 80-20 split, which means for every dollar that comes out of the deal, 20% goes to the GP and 80% go to the LP group cumulatively. Okay, and then there's two other ways that GPs typically get paid. They typically get a monthly fee to oversee the asset, and we call this an asset management fee. And a rule of thumb is 2% of the gross collections per month. And then finally, it's pretty common in the industry for GPs to take an acquisition fee. And again, this really depends on your experience level. And those of you that are my students, you know that I'm not big on complete newbies taking acquisition fees. But as you get more experience and you're able to get off-market deals, it's pretty common for GPs to get acquisition fees. So for example, on the City Center deal, it was $123 million. We had a 1% acquisition fee. So when we closed, we made $1.23 million on the closing. Okay, that was more money on the closing than I made. I used to make $65,000 a year as an engineer. Okay, so an acquisition fee is also something that we want to look at. So those are the four ways that GPs make money. Now, let's go back to that same example of a 100-unit deal. Okay, so now I'm a GP, and I'm going to put in $50,000. Okay, and again, it could be 100, it could be 200, or maybe it's zero. But I'm going to assume that as a GP, we put $50,000 into our own deal. Okay, so we're going to get the same return that the passives get, 8% cash flow. But if you notice, it says plus, I'm going to get 20% of the profit. So that's another $60,000 a year. So the passives are getting $4,000 on that $50,000 investment, and the GP is getting $64,000 on the same deal. Okay, they're going to get a return when they sell, so they're going to get $20,000 on their equity investment, but they're also going to get 20% of that $1.5 million when they sell. So they get the $20,000, and that's their return on their money, but they get $300,000 at the sale. So they're getting $320,000 at the sale of profit. And then they're going to have a $100,000 acquisition fee at 1%. And they're going to have $24,000 a year to oversee the asset. So when you add all this stuff up, oh, and they still get their depreciation. The depreciation follows the equity. Just write that down. The depreciation follows the equity. So the depreciation is not 80-20. The depreciation is based on their capital contribution. But if you follow and add all this stuff up, the GP, after 5 years on a $50,000 investment, is going to make about $900,000, assuming that we hit all these projections. And the LP is going to make about $40,000. Okay, or actually the $50,000 turns into $878, and as a passive, the $50,000 turns into $90. So first of all, look, the passive investment is a pretty good deal. I know maybe for some of you it doesn't seem like it, but this is like you do no work and you make a double-digit return. So how many people like the idea of doing no work and making a double-digit return? Yeah, Ruth, I see you. I do too. That's why I do it. Mike Becker did it too. He's going to talk to you about why he does it. You know, Mike, I'll let you tell that story, right? But how many people like the idea of 20xing their money? 20xing their money, Rhonda. I see you, Rhonda. And so this is, Rhonda, this is what I want for you. And I know this is what you want to do. But this is why, and by the way, so many people start as a GP. You don't have to start small. You don't have to start as a passive. You can choose to start there, but you don't have to. Okay, you don't have to. So you could start as a GP. And so, by the way, there's somebody that we all know pretty well, and he's going to be in the challenge. And this guy is known as, what is his nickname? Tell me his nickname. Put it in the comments. That's right, put it in the comments. It's 10X. Yeah, he's Mr. 10X. And how do you think he is Mr. 10X? Because he makes tons of money from his sales training companies, Cardone Technologies, and he puts it into multifamily. He has Cardone Capital, and he doesn't do an 80-20 split. He takes 35% of the deal. There's a 35-65 split in Cardone Capital, and I know that because he's a buddy of mine, and he's going to be in the challenge. Okay, so he's not really doing 10X. He's doing like 30X. Because I showed you doing 20X, getting the 20% split. So he should be like Mr. 50X, but all of you guys are going to be 20X in it. Okay, so who wants the 20X? Let me hear you. If you want a 20X, let me see you. Let me hear from you. Put it in the comments. I got to get some water. I'm getting so excited about 20X. This is incredible. So by the way, yesterday, we had Robert Kiyosaki on standby, and he was on a tight time frame. Today, Mike Becker is here, and I know he's really busy, but I still have more content to cover. So is it okay with you guys if I keep going and give you a little extra? Are you guys good with that? Okay, good. Because I don't want to be running off the stage yet, and I still got more content. So we're going to keep going. All right. And Mike's not going to yell at me because he wasn't a Marine. All right, so, all right. So let's keep going because I got some really good stuff I need to cover today, seriously. So I want you guys to 10X or 20X it. And the way we're going to do that is by learning to be a deal sponsor. And that's the thing. Being a deal sponsor, being a GP is not passive. It requires a decision. It requires commitment. It requires education. Okay, so this is a big decision for you to commit to, okay? And we've helped a lot of people do it, and that's what we're going to talk about as we continue in the challenge, okay? So these are some examples. I always love to share my personal situation, okay? And it's not to brag, but it's just to demonstrate what's possible. There were 2 deals that I sold in 2020, and I was a GP. Now, the other thing I want to introduce to you is you don't have to be the sole GP. You could be a co-GP or a co-sponsor where maybe you have 1 or 2 of you or 2 or 3 of you that team up. And so that way, like let's say we have an 80-20 split. Now that 80-20 split could be divvied up between the 2 or 3 of you. Does everyone follow that concept? Yes, Kelly, I see you nodding your head. Yes, Alan Stewart. Yes, Andia. So on February 20th, we sold a deal, and I was a co-GP in the deal. And actually, I co-GP'd the deal with Mike Becker, who's backstage. And when I sold this deal, I put $100,000 in the deal, and my net sales proceeds, and this is not the cash flow, this is just what I got from the sale, was $801,000 as a GP. And then that was on 2/20. On February 5th, 15 days before that, we sold a different deal. And you can see there's screenshots to my bank account. Okay, you can see the name of the deal and it going into my bank account, $887,000. And I put $100,000 in that deal. So, and this was not my depreciation, this was not my cash flow, this was just the return of the sale. And so I was a co-GP, and I probably 12X to my money in these deals. I got 8X on the sale, and then when you add in the cash flow and the depreciation, it was about a 12X return. And that's just 2 of these deals. And I have 34 deals that I've owned. I've sold 16, and I still have 18 deals. And most of the deals I'm in, I'm a GP or a co-GP. So this is the ticket to become financially free in 5 years or less. Are you guys getting this stuff? Are you guys excited? Okay, good. I am too. Now, the passive investors did really good too. This is a buddy of mine, Jeff, and he put in like 50 grand, and his profit at the sale was like 80 grand. So his 50 over like 3 years ended up being 130, and he went out and bought an $80,000 truck, and he didn't have to do any work. So like, how many people like that idea too? Well, I do too. That's why I do passive, okay? So the point is you could do a 5 to 20x return as a GP, but you could still make a damn good return on being a passive, okay? So now I have a quiz for you, and this is going to be really important that we follow this. The question is, how will you start? And I'm going to walk you through a simple process. So the first question is, I have at least $50,000 to invest. Is the answer yes or no? If you have at least $50,000, well, let's say there's somebody on here that says, Brad, I'm struggling financially, or I'm just starting out, a young person early in my career, or I went through a hardship. So let's say you said, no, I don't have $50,000 to invest. I would ask you this, are you sure? Because what I found is most people, if they look through their home equity, their stocks, their bonds, their mutual funds, if they come resourceful and they work with their parents or relatives, or they look in their IRA or their 401k, most people could scrape up 50 grand, okay? And that's my avatar. My avatar is a professional person that has a good job. It's a 35 to 50-year-old person that's in corporate America and wants out, that's doing single family, that wants to scale up, that's doing small multifamily, that wants to scale up. So most of you I know got the 50 grand. So let's move over on the yes. The next question is, are you willing to commit, make the decision to commit the time, the extra money, the energy to find, analyze, fund, and oversee the deal and manage the investors? Okay, it's a commitment, it's a decision, it's not passive. If you're not willing to do that, then the answer is put your 50 grand as a passive and earn double-digit returns with somebody else that made that commitment. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? Now, let's say you say, yes, Brad, I am ready to commit. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves. And by the way, this is what me and my team specialize in. Now the next question is, do I have the capability to raise money? Do I have investors? Do I belong to an ecosystem that I could find investors? Do I want to follow the SEC laws in terms of raising money and learning an additional skill set about accredited investors and securities attorneys? Okay? And if the answer is no, then this is where I would say do your own deal with your own money. Okay? You don't have to worry about investors, the SEC, private placements, and all that stuff. But if the answer is yes, this is where you're going to 10x it and be a deal sponsor. Okay? So I'm going to ask you for your homework to go through this. Okay? But just right now, I would like to see the Facebook comment group light up. Light me up here in the chat room. How are you guys going to start? And who's going to start as a passive? And who's going to do their own deal? And who's going to be a GP? And just share that with me. Okay? And share it on the page. And we're all going to be in this together, and we're all going to get there. Okay? So, I'm going to share with you now my goals for 2021. Because your homework is going to be to share your goals for 2021. And your goals are going to need to be SMART. Specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, and time sensitive. That's what SMART stands for. So number one, and you guys could take a screenshot of this, and you could borrow my template and say this in your own, what you're going to do. Okay, so you could take a screenshot, and then when you do your homework, you can post this. But it should be your SMART goals, not mine. So number one is I want to get 10x leveraged income. And I'm going to syndicate 2 deals. And I'm going to put in at least $100,000 in these deals and make $1 million on each deal in 5 years. Number 2 is I'm going to reduce or eliminate my taxes. and I'm going to buy another deal with my own money and get a $4 million depreciation write-off to offset my income. And I'm going to show you how all this works tomorrow, okay? So when you do your SMART goals, just use these numbers as a baseline, as a template, and tomorrow with the taxes and stuff, I'm going to show you how to calculate how much you'll get or estimate, okay? And number 3, I want to diversify and leverage the other people's hard work. So I want to be a passive in deals that I'm not focused in, and I want to earn a 15, 16% average annual return and do nothing and be lazy. And I'll be happy about that, okay? So that's my goals. So now what I'm going to do, and you could take a photo of this, I'm going to bring up one of my rock star students, and she's on Zoom. And we're going to bring up Arlene Garza, and she's going to talk to you about her journey from an E to a S to a business owner, and how her family is also in the business and how she gets to work with her husband. So, hey, Arlene, could you hear me?
Yeah. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good. All right,
Awesome.
Arlene Garza's in the house. Can you all see Arlene? So Arlene,
Thank you for having me, Brad.
yeah, we got hundreds of people here on Zoom and hundreds more on the live stream and the Facebook group. Thank you so much for coming. And I don't know if you've been listening in. I'm a little behind schedule, so thanks for waiting on me. And just go ahead and take it away. Tell us your story about like how you started in banking and how you got into apartments.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Brad, for having me on. I watched last night. What a great program you're running these 5 days. This challenge is super exciting. But I want to start by saying that last night on day 1, I was watching and listening, and you spoke about mindset, and you also spoke, or Robert Kiyosaki talked about, as you said, how to, what you want to be. You want to be on the, right half of that quadrant as a business owner or an investor. And I really want to share in my journey that I started out as an employee, as an E. I worked for 20 years in corporate America, in banking specifically. And I enjoyed it, but there wasn't financial freedom. There wasn't freedom to take vacation when you wanted to. There wasn't freedom to go to your kids' schools if you wanted to. And then my husband Jacob and I transitioned into being a business owner and investor. And we bought a small 24-unit complex in Balcones Heights, which is here in San Antonio area. And honestly, it was our first time to attempt to do this. And so we did all of it. I did the leasing and the accounting, and Jacob managed the rehab and managed the maintenance side of it. And boy, did we learn a lot. It was a fun time. The guy who sold it to us on due diligence day showed up and put a suitcase on the hood of his truck, and he said, "There's all the paperwork. That's where the leases were. That's where the accounting was." And so it was a very interesting experience. And then we bought 3 more small properties, and we taught ourselves as much as we could at the time about managing a property. And
So Arlene, you went from an E to an S, right? Because when you had those small properties, now you're an S and you're doing everything yourself. And then how did you become a business owner?
That's correct, Brad. Well, we became business owners in 2015. We signed up to be personal mentoring students of yours. And one of the first things that you advised us of was to try to find a way to not spend so much time in the business, but on the business. And so through your mentoring and guidance, we realized, one, we still had a lot to learn. And through following the steps that you taught us, we've been able to grow. And so now at this point, we've grown the number of our properties by more than 10x. We've bought, over 3,000 units, and you talked about the different ways of investing. We've done it all. We've bought it individually, we've bought it as passive investors, and we've bought it as, deal sponsors. And all the 3 ways work, and we've seen it work in our life. And in the process, Jacob and I, my husband Jacob and I, learned a lot about working together to scale the business. And that was an interesting piece of it as, I had my skills and the things I'd learned in corporate America, and he had been a serial entrepreneur having his first business at the age of 26. So it was an adjustment until we figured out what each of our strengths were. I have a degree in finance, and so the underwriting and the acquisitions really was more my forte. And he'd run many businesses, so he took over the operations of our management company. So that has been a huge blessing for us. And, Brad, I want to transition back to the why. You asked us last night to share our why and what number we were targeting in order to be able to be financially free. So, my why was originally to spend more time with my kids. I wanted to be able to volunteer at their schools. I wanted to be able to go to their field trips. I wanted to do all of that. And while I was at corporate America, I really didn't have that opportunity. So being business owners, I now have that opportunity. And, initially my number was 30,000 a month. Well, I'm happy to say that, 5 years later, we've 10x that number. And all of it's due to your guidance and your help. In getting this.
So wait, does that mean you guys are at 300,000 a month?
Yes.
Oh my God, let's give her a round of applause. She's a rock star. Yeah, these guys are crushing it, by the way. She's being very humble, but they have over 2,000 doors in San Antonio, and it all started with a decision to move out of that E role, and they had some struggles on the S side. But Arlene, I know that you had a lot of, memorable experiences doing those 24 units. But I don't think you had to go through that process. Like knowing what you know now, you could probably have started with a 60, 70, 100 unit deal, right?
That's correct. Yeah, Brad, we definitely would have started with a bigger property. I think that's one of the, lessons that we look back and think, wow, we could have started bigger and grown faster if we hadn't spent those first 4 years really trying to do it all. And your program taught us how to really leverage other people's time and money to grow faster and scale your business. And that's exactly what we've done today. In fact, I want to share that, our why, Jacob's and mine, has changed. Now we're looking at leaving a legacy business to our kids. You mentioned that, that's one of the things we want to do. Our daughter, Victoria, joined us in August at the company. She had worked with us when she was in high school doing leasing in the summers. And after she achieved her master's and worked for another property management company in Florida, she moved back. And so now she has joined us. And our son, Jack, is a senior. He will get his degree in real estate, finance, and development. So he'll be joining us as soon as he graduates. So for us, it's exciting. We're building something that, we'll be able to pass along to them and show them everything they're doing. And I'll tell you that our daughter, Victoria, watched all your videos because she's working with us now and she wanted to really understand the nuts and bolts. So she said, Mom, can I watch the videos? And so we sat there together and she watched them. So that's been a very exciting thing.
That's outstanding, Arlene. Thank you so much for coming on. I think you've been a huge motivation. I know it's inspiring to me, and I love seeing your family get involved in the business and your daughter working with you and you and Jacob working together, and now your son coming into the company. So congratulations on all aspects. What a great success. So let's hear it for Arlene. And Arlene, thank you very much. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank
you. I just want to challenge everyone that's listening. Get your education, and Brad's program is fantastic. And I especially want to challenge the women watching. Women in real estate rock. So take the time to educate yourself, and you can 20x, as Brad has challenged us, through learning all about real estate through Brad's program. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Arlene. What a rock star. Woohoo! All right, so we got a couple more things we're going to do, and now I want to give you your homework for tomorrow, okay? And so your homework is going to be, what are your SMART goals? What are your SMART goals? And you could use the template or you could use this one here. So what I want to know in your homework is, Are you going to start as a GP or deal sponsor? Are you going to do an individual deal with your own money? Are you going to be a passive investor? And so write down your SMART goals and say, in 2021, I will do the following, okay? And I will invest X into deals as a passive. I will buy X number of units with my own money. I will be a GP and 5 to 20X my returns, okay? And so we're going to blow up the Facebook group tonight, okay? And we want to see this because I'm going to read as many of these as I can and comment on them. And we're going to give out some amazing prizes. And remember, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time sensitive. So if your SMART goals are like way out there, like you're going to do billions of dollars in 3 weeks, that's not attainable. Okay, so I want you to think big, but it's also got to be something realistically attainable in a period of time. So this is your homework. You guys got it? You guys in the backstage, you got it? Okay, so now we're going to do a couple more things. I'm going to bring up Mike Becker, and then halfway through Mike Becker, we're going to give away the prizes from homework from yesterday. Okay, so Mike's going to come up, we'll announce the prizes, and then we're going to go backstage again with Mike. So you got that one last time to come backstage, okay? So by the way, I see a lot of you here on the backstage. We got Cornelius. I've seen your posts. They were awesome. I see Alan Stewart, Martin Rubio, Bradley Moon, Michael O'Reilly, Kimberly Rowe, Roger Rosebrough, Sandia, Larry Troy. I see a lot of you on the backstage, okay? So, Mike, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's hear it for Mike.
Bring energy for Mike, yes.
Mike, Mike Becker in the house. Let's give Mike some energy. Mike is like, Brad, please don't.
Yeah, please don't make me dance.
Mike's
right?
like, please don't make me dance. Come on, Mike, let's do it, man.
Comment.
It's for Dante, right?
All right. So, Mike, you want to have a seat?
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. So let's start by, Mike. We're all here having a good time.
How fun it is.
I just want to say I've known Mike for like at least since 2008, right?
Yeah, something like that. A long time.
And so we've done 5 deals together.
That's right.
He's done loans. And the theme today, Mike, and you were here in the studio for day 2 of the challenge, and then yesterday we talked about why and financial freedom numbers, and today we talked about 3 ways to invest. But like so many other successful people, you have a great story to tell.
Yep.
And you started also as an employee. So take us way back. Mike has 10,000 units now, but let's start way back when you were an employee and give us a little bit about your background and what you were doing for a living.
Yeah, I started like a lot of people. I was relatively well educated, and I was in college for a long time. I had a good time in college. Took me a little while to get out, but when I got out of school, I ended up in the banking business, and started kind of in college doing like the retail side, opened up new accounts. Got into the credit department and started loaning money to other people and on the commercial real estate side. That's really kind of how I cut my teeth in the business, Brad, was just loaning money to other people. And that's kind of how we met. You were, prior to starting your company, you were still doing mentoring for another firm, and that's kind of how we met. I was making loans to a lot of your students at the time, and I was doing pretty good. I was making a good living, and kind of through that process just realized I was on the wrong side of all these deals. It was better to be kind of the borrower than the lender, and really just kind of making loan after loan and seeing some of these people, some of my clients that were all really smart, hardworking people, but they weren't that much smarter than me, or they weren't, a lot of these people didn't have as much money as me.
I remember you said that. You're like, Brad, these people aren't as smart as me, and they're not, and now I'm giving them loans and they're making more money.
Yeah, not to degrade, but there's like lots of little moments, lots of little stories along the way. And I remember one vividly. There was a guy. It was like 2 guys co-sponsoring to do a deal. They're buying a 40 unit property or something like that. And one of the guy was literally a bus driver, like literally a bus driver. Nothing against bus drivers, but this guy had basically no money, and he was just kind of relying on his co-sponsor. And here I am, like giving them $1 million loan. And I'm like, if this guy is doing it, like what am I doing? I'm not utilizing my resources or my talents. And it kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you. So I kind of decided, that was one story, and I had many, many examples like that. And that was kind of the moment I had to go out and take action and get from being an employee into being a business owner.
Yeah, so tell us about what your first deal was.
Yep.
And then we also talked about these 3 ways to invest, and I know that you do all 3.
That's right, yeah.
So kind of talk about how you started. Did you start off as a GP, an LP? Do you do your own deals? And kind of take us through your first year or 2 of an apartment investor.
Yeah, so I started, unfortunately, I started doing little single-family homes because I thought the first thing I needed to do was kind of just buy stuff with my own money and start small and kind of grow into it. Ended up doing 16 rent houses, and that was in 2011 is when I started that. And I realized, that was it was good to kind of learn and grow, but I didn't need to do that. I could have started right into multifamily.
Well, let me stop you right there, because I know there's a lot of people here that might think they need to start small, or they're doing single family, or so. Do you think somebody needs to go out and do a duplex or single family and then somehow graduate into multifamily, or do you think they could start right away in multifamily?
I mean, if you don't have any money or any credit, you need to, form capital. This is not a business for no money down, no credit, no job. I mean, you have to have some business acumen. You have to have some financial resources, but if you have a good job and you're 40 years old or older, you have some money saved up. I mean, I that was kind of me. I was in my mid-30s.
Yeah, I was 35. I didn't have to wait till 40. And I know there's some people out here that are in their 20s that have a good job and they got some money saved up.
So I was 35 when I bought my first multifamily deal, and that's
the same age I was.
That's right. And I, with the benefit of hindsight, I could have done it at 33 when I started buying all these houses, but I waited until I was 35. So no, to answer your question, if you have the resources, you have, like you said, 50,000 or more, I think you go right into the multifamily industry and take your program, learn from Brad. I think Brad's got a great program. I think one of the things that I heard someone say once, best compliment you could pay someone's a referral. And, recently one of my childhood friends, I went to high school with them, has been watching me kind of for Facebook, and he had a little bit of impact with his job during COVID, and he was trying to figure out how does he get into it. And so I kind of gave him some resources, and one of the resources was you, and he joined your program. I think he's a personally mentoring students for years now. So I think, to answer your question, if you have some money, you have business acumen a little bit, you don't have to be the most sophisticated person in the world. Go in, jump into it, get right into multifamily. I wish I would have done it a few years earlier than I did.
So talk about your first couple deals. So you did 16 single families that you didn't need to do.
That's right.
But what was your first, take us through your first deal, maybe your first 2 deals, and then how you went into, doing big deals.
So I ended up doing 4 properties while I still was employed at the bank. So the first deal I bought was a 120 unit deal in Garland, Texas, so like suburban Dallas. That's called the Bay Island Apartments. We bought it for, I don't know, $3.8 or $3.9 million, so kind of high 30s a door. And then I know we sold it about 2.5 years later to my buddy JC. He paid, I think, $55,000 a door. I think he sold it a few years later for $80,000 a door, and I'm sure it's worth $100,000 a door now or something like that. But that was the first deal. It had probably 15 to 20% upside of rents. We go and do some renovations and increase the income there, but also back then a lot of these owners weren't sophisticated enough to implement RUBS or water bill back, utility bill back, and that's one of the things that I know you teach, Brad. And so we had probably another 10 to 15% upside in other incomes by billing back the water bill that the property was paying. So I think we almost doubled the net operating income in about a 30-month period, give or take. And the property after that, we bought a 160 unit property, my only property that had a chiller on it. So what those of you don't know, it's one big central HVAC system that kind of feeds the entire property through underground pipes, and those are challenging to say the least, especially in the Texas in the summertime. So that's the one chiller property I'm ever going to do. And then one of the last deals we did, we had a few properties that we owned for about 4 or 5 years with one equity partner. We sold those last year in 1031 into a $90+ million deal, 450 units right by SMU. So it went from about $4 million to about $90 million in 8 years.
And now tell us a little bit about your company now and what are you guys doing. And then when we go backstage, we're going to talk about your strategy for 2021 and your debt. But kind of give us an overview of your company right now and how you went from those 4 kind of relatively smaller deals to like where you're at now.
Yep. So company's SPI Advisory. So we've been doing this for about 8 years. Myself, and my partner Sean. So we own in Dallas Fort Worth, which is why I'm based in Dallas, and Austin, the greater Austin area, which is where my partner is based. So you don't have to live in the markets, but we happen to kind of live in the markets that we operate in. They're 2 pretty good markets among many across the country. And you know, that's kind of really what we focus on, is we just kind of raise capital from our investor pool and put together what we think are pretty high quality apartment opportunities. As you mentioned, we've co-GP'd on 5 properties over the past, and you're welcome for those capital gains.
I shared with everybody those sales.
Yeah, I saw. So yeah, you're welcome. But no, it's been a great relationship. We've known each other, you know, over a decade now, and you know, a lot of what you teach is kind of a lot of the fundamentals we run our company with. I mean, I think your foundation of information that you give people is great, and you know, that's really what I think professional owners and operators like what I try to think of my company as. What a lot of the stuff that Brad teaches are the same things that we implement in day-to-day operations of our company, SPI Advisory.
So talk about a little bit about the deals that we did and why. I know why I saw it. You know, it was a good thing for me, right? But what was attractive to you about doing these deals with me? And the learning would be like, when people are out there looking for partners, what do they look for in a partner? And then, you know, and I'll kind of spill the beans a little bit, but we did one small deal to make sure we could work together as a team. And then we went and dealed like 4 really big deals. But talk about that from your perspective. Yeah,
so from my perspective, I'd already done 10, maybe or more deals prior to kind of forming up our joint venture together. And what you brought to me was, you know, I had a decent database, but you had a much bigger database than what I had, just from the nature of what you're doing. So when you're putting these deals together, I think the concept of partnerships, you think of it in 2 ways. So like, I have my primary partnership with my partner who's in Austin, and then we operate our business together, and that's kind of the day-to-day, and we're involved in, you know, different aspects of it. And he is very different in his, he's a really smart guy, and he's, you know, you met him several times, obviously. He's really good with spreadsheets, and, you know, he's a genius level in math and stuff like that, but he's not the best with, you know, investor relations and marketing deals and things like that. Where, not that I'm Mr. 10X or Grant Cardone, but I can excel at that a little bit better than he can. So we have very different but complementary skill sets, and that was certainly something that was very helpful with our relationship together, Brad. That I had a decent database, but you had a much better database, and so you were able to leverage me and my ability to go out and source deals, put them together, operate them, do a lot of the heavy lifting, and you were able to bring in some equity and just kind of leverage all the relationships that you built over the many, many years, and together we're able to do bigger deals together than we could have done on our own.
So when you find if you're going to be a co-GP, you want to make sure, again, that you have that synergistic relationship. If both of you have large investor databases and are really good at marketing, you got to also think about, well, who's going to do the back end?
That's right.
You know, who's going to crunch all the numbers, and who's going to manage the asset, and who's going to do all the paperwork and the investor portal. And some of these things you can hire an employee to do, but some of the higher value things is you're going to need to have a partner. So whenever I look for a co-GP, I'm looking to leverage my strengths, okay, and complement my strengths with, you know, a company or an individual that has things in their strengths that I don't have.
That's right.
So that's the key. So, Mike, anything else you want to say to the general live stream? Then we're going to have Jen give out the prizes, and then me and you are going to go backstage.
Yeah, back to the partnership thing. You know, if done right, if leveraged each other's relationships right, skill sets right, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. It probably equals 10. If you can just really focus on the things that you do well, and have your other partner focus on things they do well, you could do a whole lot more than if you just try to do everything yourself. And I think one of the biggest things in this business is really, like you said, the way you make money as a sponsor in this business. Really, there's two ways. You got to find deals and you got to find capital, right? So you got to find money, you got to find deals. Everything else is sort of noise. I mean, you got to do everything else right. You got to operate it right. You got to asset manage it right. I'm doing 1,300 K1s right now, so you got to do all the paperwork right and manage all that process. But at the end of the day, you got to find monies and find deals. And so I think one of the things that more, almost to me, more than the education program like yours has, which is certainly valuable, it's really kind of the ecosystems, it's the relationships that people are able to form. I've seen numerous people, I've seen on the screen here, like Alan Stewart's a good example. I mean, he came out of an engineering background, didn't really know a whole lot about it, and he didn't certainly have hundreds and hundreds of accredited investors, a pool he can go to, and by facilitating the room, people can kind of find everything they need within the room to put one of these deals together. So I think to me, from someone on the outside, that's really kind of more the value I think that your program brings, or at least as much as the educational content that you provide. So it's certainly something. That's why I referred my buddy Bobby to you, and I think he joined it, and I think that hopefully he'll be successful and find everything he needs within the room.
All right, well, let's give it up for Mike Becker. He's going to stay on backstage. Mike, hang out a little bit. And Jen's going to come up, and she's going to give out the prizes for the best homework from yesterday. So let's bring it up for Jen again. Let's get some energy going. So who wants to win the prize? Who wants to win? Who's going to win? All right, here she is. Here she is.
Some don't. If you did your homework, you rock. All right, you guys excited to hear about the winners?
I'm excited.
You guys having fun? Let me hear some excitement in there. All right. How was Mike, by the way? You guys give it up for Mike. Let's see that in the comments because he's going to be watching. See if you guys are paying attention. Tell me something you learned from Mike. I'd love to see that. All right. They're sending lots of love, Mike. They're loving you. All right. We got Marios. Thank you. Richard Childs. Nice to see you. Whoop, whoop. Kitty Sisters, look at that. We got Nan, whoop, whoop. Okay, they're giving you like some star time. By the way, while you're here, you're one of our prize winners. You're on the list. So I just wanted you to know, so congratulations. Woo, woo. All right, so good to see you guys. Thank you, Tammy. Giving me some energy, I love it. Yeah, all right. All right, let's see. So I just revealed the first winner. So here we go. We got 9 more. We got 10 winners today. How amazing is that? Well, congratulations to all of you because you're all winners because you're here with us today. You could be somewhere else, drifting off, doing something, watching a Netflix, drinking something that's, not really going to do you any good. But you're here with us instead, learning how to get to the next level. And you guys are on the inside, and that's amazing. So let me continue with the winners. Drum roll, please. All right, we've got Marie Cannon, Sonia Brown, Kathy Sellers. Are you guys on anyway, by the way? I see the Kitty Sisters. Woo, woo. I see Kathy. All right, we got, I don't want to keep going back and forth. I'm going to get lost in my list here. Maria, and then it says VT. So if you have a screen name, I guess that's Maria VT. We've got Karina Joss, Bradley Moon, Dave Baumgardner, Matt Hint, Andy Lee, and then of course the Kitty Sisters, which I already said. So congratulations to all of you for doing your homework and submitting it. Now for those of you that didn't win today, there's still time to win. We've got a few more days left. We've got more homework for you to do tonight. And remember, if you want, I love the Kitty Sisters. Way to give it the dance. Celebrating. And for those of you that want to stay with us backstage, we're going to bring Mike back up here, and he's going to talk about what his whole plan is for this year. How amazing is that? So for those of you who have maybe you guys want to still put up the link for those that are asking so that they don't miss out on this most intimate, amazing discussion.
Let me see if I can do that too.
All right, you guys. Congratulations to all the winners. Let us know when we're ready to bring Mike back up. You guys ready for Mike? Who's staying with me backstage? All right. All right. All right, for those of you that want to upgrade, you still have one last chance. I think they're putting the link up there. And congratulations to you guys again. Enjoy Mike and Brad. They're coming right back up. All right, see you later.
All right, congratulations, everybody that won the prizes. Do your homework. Put it on the Facebook post, the Facebook challenge group. And Mike, come on back up. Everyone on live stream, see you tomorrow, same time, same place, same channel. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Now we're backstage. All right.
Do it.
Oh, man, look at Mike. Mike's sporting the gear.
Got it.
Some rock, some don't.